Hello, Star Citizens, and welcome to Origin Day. It is day 8 of the ship sale, and yeah, IAE has been a method that, or I guess a event of ups and downs, mostly downs, not because of like anything negative that CIG is doing, but because some of these CCUs have been terrible. But it looks like we got a good CCU today. So we do have that. However, it's Origin Day, so everybody's, I'm sure, going to be trying to get their 890 jumps. And we can see what the price of that pack is. Not 100% sure that it'll be worth it right now until it starts to get like things like maybe once a 700i or a 500i or stuff like that starts to come out. Maybe 200i? I don't know. But once we get stuff like that, then I'll start to be like, okay, or maybe a few more vehicles and stuff, then maybe I'll start thinking about those packs. But as always, if you're subscribed, consider hitting that join button, and then you have a 25% chance of winning our ship. And if you're not subscribed, this is the best time to subscribe because we are going to be giving away something even better than our Star Lancer tack that we're giving away this month, next month, and you don't want to miss it, and you're going to need to be subscribed right now in order to qualify for it later. So I've said that on every one of these videos, so if you're watching this, thank you for listening to the 12 times that I've said it. But, you know, every video might be somebody's first video, so that's why I always got to do it. But as always, it's time to look at these ships and see if they're worth anything. All right, let's get into it. So first, our Warbond. So this Warbond is, you get, I believe, 25. Actually, let's just look at it. So if you go here, you can see that it's a $20 Warbond, which at the $250 range is okay. Not great, but it's okay. It's decent, and that's all we're looking for because that's the best I think we can expect for this IAE. It's $20, but the thing that makes it decent is not that it's $20. It's that you can get one for $5. So if I come all the way down here, it's $230. So I when I get the 400i, I'm getting the 400i for $230, even though its original price is $250. In order to secure the upgrade, I'm going to get a rail-in to 400i, which costs $5. So you can see the rail-in is $225, and the 400i is $230 because I'm getting the Warbond edition. This is the original price. I'm getting the Warbond edition. The Warbond edition is $230. So I'm basically paying $5 to secure the $230 price of the 400i. Now, I don't have to get a 400i. I can get a ship that's more expensive than a 400i, but that's basically how upgrades work. Just a quick reminder for people, or people who, not really a reminder, but more so for people who don't quite understand when I say CCU or upgrade. This is kind of what I mean here. Yeah, the rail-in to 400i, it's a $5 purchase, but I'm saving $20. I'm saving $20 even though I'm only paying $5. And that's kind of the whole idea here. You want to connect as many Warbond upgrades like this to the next Warbond upgrade as you can. I don't know if this fits in a weird place, but it doesn't seem like it because 225 and 220, there's plenty of ships at that 220 range. I think there's only one at the 225, but there's plenty of ships at the $10 or $220 range. So I think this is actually one of the more decent ones. So yeah, I think this one might be actually worth the purchase. It's not a great one, but it's good enough to where if you get it, you're not going to be upset later down the road. All right, let's get to these Origin ships. The 100i. So I have to say this, the 100 series actually surprised me. I'm so glad that I reviewed them because these are the types of ships that I never would have looked at twice if I didn't have to review them. And I'm so glad that I did because they actually are pretty solid ships. It's just the price that's a problem. So the 100i is the more touring variant. It's more so just for the one person. And yeah, I think it's a decent ship, but it's really a decent ship just because it's $50. But there's no way I think people should get this more than they should get something like the Cutter, unless they absolutely do not like the looks of the Cutter, which I completely understand. So at this price, I really think if you're going to get an Origin ship and you're going to get the 100 series, the 125A is the fighting variant. I just think that you could do better because you can get an Avenger Titan, which is going to fight better than this. And I think the Avenger Titan is either 60 or 65. So you're better off getting an Avenger Titan in most situations. The only real competitor here is the 135C because it can carry that cargo and has the interior. But again, you're probably, unless you really don't like the look of the Avenger Titan, the cutter, the Sully and things like that, you're probably better off getting a different version of the ship. So it's really about looks at this point, but I think the 135C is a solid ship. It's the one that I would get out of these three. So if you're in the market for a starter ship, make sure either one of these that you get, make sure it comes with a starter pack, because that's the only time you're really saving money. And that's the way you should really look at all starter ships. If it's a starter, or even if it's an advanced starter, CIG's version, which is like, I think up to $100 or something like that, make sure it comes with a game package, because otherwise you're just wasting your money. Even if you already have a game package, it's still better to get the one that comes with the game package, especially if it has LTI. But focus on LTI more than the game package if you already have a game package. All right, moving on. The 300 series. So we have the 300i, the 315p, the 325a, and the 350r. So these ships are all pretty good at what they do, but you just have to determine whether the price differences are worth it for you. Because if you look here, the 300i is $60. It's very much so worth $60, and I just don't think you can get it with a starter pack. And that's my only thing about it, is I don't think you can get this with like a game package. Maybe at some point you were able to, but I don't think you can anymore. But at that price, it is very solid. But this is something that I'll talk about when I'm done explaining them all. But we're going to compare these to the 100s, and you'll start to see some issues there. So the 315p, I think this is actually a legitimately good exploration ship, even at the $65 price point. It's because of what it has inside of it, how it looks. It's a beautiful ship. On top of that, the interior is beautiful, and it has full living quarters. It can go the distance. It's a solid ship. The 325A is a solid fighter. It needs some balancing, but at its price point for what it can do, at $70, it's solid. There are better fighters even around this price point. I still think the Avenger Titan is going to give it its most problems, but I could see why some people would prefer the 325A. Just it needs a lot of balancing to get where it needs to go. And then there's the 350R, which is extremely overpriced, but it is fast. So I'll give it what it's supposed to be. It is fast, and it has weapons. So it has a secondary purpose. So if you are the type of person that likes to fight but likes to be faster than everybody else, I could see why you'd go for the 350R. At $125, it's not extremely overpriced, but it is overpriced. It should be closer to $100, and that would make a lot more sense. But it's Origin, so you're getting supposedly top of the line parts. They're supposed to be kind of the higher class manufacturer. I don't know if I believe that, but that's the way they're marketed. So you're paying for the Origin name, so to speak. But now, so we have, if you pay attention to this, we have the touring version, we have the exploration version, we have the fighting version, and the racing version, right? So that's 4 different versions, whereas the 100i doesn't have that. Now, one thing I will say is both of these carry a decent amount of cargo. So the 300i and the 315p. Now, if we go to the 135C, it's $65, right? The 300i and the 315p, this is $65. This is $60. Why would a 300i cost less than a 135C? You can fit the 135C in smaller areas. You can I think this is one of the few ships that you can get. You can spawn it on a garage landing platform. So I think that is one of the benefits to it. However, now that we have hangars and things like that, I don't think that's as much of a benefit. I would much rather have a 300i than a 135C. And I would much have a 315p than a 135C. Same thing with the 125A. Why am I getting the 125A rather than the 325A if it's only $10 more. 125A, $60. 325A, $70. So you could see the issue with the 100 series. I hope it becomes obvious. The 100i, $50. The 300i, $60. You are getting much more than $10 worth of value. So that kind of makes the 100 series kind of useless to me. Not useless, I shouldn't use that word, but I really just don't, unless you specifically like the looks of these ships, the 300 series is just the much better value. Now, the 100 series is faster, so I'll give you that. But that's really all you get. You know, I just don't see a reason to get these unless you absolutely need this version of your ship to be small. If you need it to be small and you need it to be faster, then I could see the 100 series being better for you. But I'm still thinking that if that's what you need, there are still better ships. So it's up to you really if you like Origin ships, but I just think the 300 series is the better value. Moving on, 400i. Now, the 400i is one of those ships that has had massive ups and massive downs. Right now, it's on a downward streak, unfortunately. At $250, I just can't justify it. If you got it at $225 or less, maybe. But it doesn't seem like CIG likes this ship. It seems like when they developed it, they liked it. And then they were like, they had this trajectory for it where it was like gonna be this really cool intermediary where like you could, you know, maybe you don't have to get an MSR, maybe you don't have to get a Corsair. And then they just said, nope, actually, those other ships are way better. So the 400i is really like a looks thing. If you like the looks of it, if you like the fact that it has an X1 bay in the front, if you like the fact that it is more luxury, if you like the interior more, if you like the guns on it more, if you like Origin, I could see why you would like this ship. It is an exploration ship, but I do think it does have a little bit of, you know, it's got cold storage on it, which is very unique to this ship. And I just think that is really the reason you should be getting it, but it can't fit a Cyclone MT, which bothers me. I feel like it's just missing it by this much. So that's one of the things that bothers me. But because I do think the Cyclone MT is the best of the Cyclones. So yeah, it's just missing the mark for me as far as ships. And at $250, I don't think you can be missing the mark. So that's my opinion of the 400i. I did do reviews. I've reviewed every ship in Star Citizen except for the ones that have come out since IAE. So go check those out if you need a little bit more on that. The 600i Explorer, one of my favorite ships in the entire game. A lot of people said it looked like a bedpan. Sorry if I just put that image in your head and you've never thought of it that way, but that's what a lot of people think of it. But I actually like the way it looks, so maybe I just like the way bedpans look. But no, I honestly, I don't see the bedpan thing. I kind of see it, but for me, I actually like the looks of the ship. I think what people don't like is the fact that it's just this plain white color, but there are so many skins for the 600i now that you can make this ship look much better if you just don't like that plain white look. And I personally don't like the white look of the 600i, but I do like everything else about it. The ship is getting a massive rework. We don't know when that rework is coming, but the rework is going to make this ship much better. So go and check out the rework video that CIG did if you're considering a 600i, and both of them are getting a rework. So this is the Touring at 435, and this is the 600i at 475. I think the Touring is slightly overpriced. I would say this should be about 400, and I think the 600i after the rework will be appropriately priced. But before the rework, this should be $25 less, and it should be 450. But with some CCUing, you could get both of these ships in the 200 range if you play the long game. So you could get both these ships for less than $300 if you play the upgrade game for long enough, you know, getting those Warbond CCUs and connecting them, like I said earlier. So not too particularly worried about the price. However, I do think the 600i, when it's all said and done and it gets that rework, whenever it comes, which I still think is probably a year and a half away, I do think it'll be one of the best exploration ships. It's got great crew quarters. Right now, its biggest problem is it wastes too much space and has too many stairs, but It's going to get more lifts, it's going to get more elevators, it's going to get expanded cargo areas, it's going to be able to fit a tank, it's going to be able to, so it's just going to be a more all-around ship. So go look at those rework videos, and the touring is a little bit different. So the touring obviously is for guests, and it's kind of your hotel, your small hotel in the sky, but your boutique hotel, like your expensive boutique hotel in the sky. Whereas the 890 jump is like your luxury yacht, or as if we're talking hotels, it would be like your massive, luxury hotel where it's got all this, like more like a resort than it is a hotel. So yeah, the 600i touring is for the people who don't want to play the F5 wars to try to get the 890 jump, and still want to bring that high class elegance to it. This is the next best thing to the 890 jump, unless you count the Banu Merchantman. And that's another thing that the Banu Merchantman has going for it. It looks like that's going the way of luxury. So that might actually be the next best thing to the 890 jump, or maybe even a competitor to the 890 jump, but we just don't know enough about it. So I can't really give it that marker until we know a little bit more about it. So for now, I'll say the 600i is the next best thing. At 435, it's a lot. So unless you're really into touring, you're probably going to be better off getting something a little bit smaller. Like if you were to get the Constellation Phoenix, that has kind of the luxury vibe, but it's $100 cheaper. But again, you're still going to be, well, it's not $100 cheaper. It's about $80 cheaper. But you're going to be paying the price for that, and you're going to be not paying the price. You're going to be doing the F5 wars for that. So just know that that's part of what you're going to have to do, and it's going to be very difficult to get LTI on that unless you do the Nomad upgrade thing. But you got to look that up for yourself. But it does work. I have confirmed that the Nomad upgrade does work. So if you get a pack and you do that 2950 Nomad upgrade, it gives LTI to the entire pack. So there's a thing for you folks if you are wondering how to get LTI on some of these packs that do not have LTI. I used it to get my Constellation Phoenix to have LTI, but obviously you can buy other packs that are like just shy of $1,000, and you can put LTI on those. So there's probably a better way to use it. I really needed a Constellation Phoenix because my background is more often than not a Constellation Phoenix if you watch my live shows. So I kind of need one of those, and also my favorite skin in the game just happens to be on a Constellation Phoenix. So anyway, enough of that. If you're into touring, if you're into the luxury gameplay, this might end up being a mainstay for you. And I would get a Lynx rover to go with it. I think the Explorer comes with the G12. I don't know if the 600 touring comes with the G12, but either way, I would ditch the G12 and I would get a Lynx an RSI Lynx to go with it if you're getting this specific model, because the touring one is all about VIP experience, and the Lynx is gonna keep that VIP experience going from the landing pad all the way to their actual destination. Not to mention, not every person just wants to go from point A to point B. It says touring. They might want to go to a place like this where the water is nice and they want to actually go and hang out on their little cabana, and maybe there's a landing pad at every one of these cabanas and you got to land there and whatever, I don't know. But it might just be that there's land that they want to explore and they want to actually get out of the ship and drive around. So what are you going to do? Pop them in the back of an Ursa that doesn't have any windows? No, you got to put them in a Lynx that has windows, and it's got, a champagne and little screens for them to look at little information about stuff that they're looking at. And it's just a much better experience. Now, that gameplay is way far away, but just to give you a kind of idea of what these ships are supposed to be about. All right, enough about the 600i. The 85X. So the 85X is one of those ships that kind of surprised me in what it's capable of doing. So let me just go through these ships. The 890 jump, we got all of the G series, the M50, and then the X1s. Those are what we have left. So just so you get a little bit of a sense of where we're going after this. But the 85X actually comes standard with the 890 jump. So this is always something that I've looked at as, it's nice When you buy an 890 jump, you could just basically subtract $50 off the price because you're getting an 85X with it. And I do think the 890 jump should also come with a G. It should come with what is it? The G12. What is the thing? I think it's the G12. Yeah, the G12. It should come with the G12, and I do think it should come with one of the bigger variants, maybe the R or the A. But yeah, the 85X coming with the 890 jump, I think is really cool. Outside of that, though, it has something very unique about it in that it can seat 2 people at $50. And it's, if I'm not mistaken, the cheapest ship that seats 2 people. So, if I'm not mistaken. Now, you can put other people on a cheaper ship, but it won't seat them. And so that's what's unique about this. You can seat them in the, we'll click on it here just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Yeah, we'll go here. So if you look here, you can see there's 2 seats in the cockpit. Now, you might be asking, well, why wouldn't I just get another ship that can fit other people? The reason you don't get another ship that can fit other people is because this limits them to only being able to get into that seat and get out of that seat. And that is great if you don't trust the person you're providing a ride to. So when would you be in a position to provide a ride to somebody you don't trust? Maybe you're giving somebody a ride, maybe somebody's paying you for a ride, maybe somebody's maybe it's an NPC you picked up and maybe you have to transport them somewhere. Those are all situations where you might want somebody to be able to get into your ship so you can get them to somewhere, but you don't want them to be able to control or touch anything. So by putting them in the 85X, you can control what they can do in your ship. They can only sit down and ride. They can't do anything else. If you, for instance, you might be saying, well, I can get a cutter rambler, things like that. So if you get a cutter, right, at $45, they still have full range of walking through your ship and taking out your components and shooting stuff and whatever, right? But in the 85X, they do not have that capability. So I just want to clarify that because there's a lot of people who talk down on the 85X, and that is something that the 85X offers that a lot of other ships do not offer, especially at the $50 price point. Just don't go out eating for 2 months straight. You can afford an 85X. I don't think its value goes much beyond that. It is a very fast ship. It is a racing ship, and it is a touring ship. So even if you do have somebody you trust, you can put them in that second seat and take them flying around. But to me, I think it's best used in the capability that I'm talking about, where you just kind of need to take somebody somewhere, but you don't want them to be able to touch anything. And of course, you get one with the 890 jump, and I think that's the best way to get it. However, let's talk about the 890 jump. At $950, this thing is begging absolute. Well, actually, let's see if there's any available. It is sold out. It is sold out. It costs $890, and it is $950 for the credit version, and it is sold out. So they sell these out every single time. Like the 890 jump is one of those ships that sells out every single time. I'm actually surprised because I thought maybe we were moving towards some certain things not selling out, but yeah, with 10 years insurance, I can't justify it because it's just missing the mark. This ship, I mean, maybe they'll come out with a 900 series. That's a little different. Maybe it'll be less yachty and more, maybe a little bit more, utilitarian. And I don't want to say utilitarian like it'll be like a mining ship or anything, but maybe it'll be more of a command and control ship. Or maybe it'll be more of a base of operations or something like that. I could see them doing a 900 series that goes above that $1,000 mark. And maybe that's why they're saving this. But yeah, for me, unless you got this with LTI, I don't think it's worth it, at least not in the way it is now. But they do have some cool, very cool paints for it. I don't even have an 890 jump, but I'm going to be picking up these paints just because I don't think that, I don't know how often these paints are going to be for sale, but the 890 jump has never had paints before. So I think getting this 3-pack might actually work out for a lot of people. Even though I don't have an 890 jump, I'm getting it because even when I get one in game, I don't want to be limited on those paints. Now, yeah, you might be able to find them in game, but the 890 jump, everybody's 890 jump looks the same. So the fact that they have 3 paints available is great, because I don't know when is the next time they're going to allow people to have different paints on their 890 jump. The Penumbra one, I think, is going to be the most popular one. Well, maybe the Meridian. I think the Penumbra and Meridian will be fighting for first place, and the Skyline will be the last place. But I do think the Skyline paint is the one that I would rock, just because it looks so different. Like, both of these look, all 3 of these, I actually like the looks of them. But the Skyline paint is just so drastically different, and it's such a weird thing to see this massive blue and red ship flying in the sky. I think that's the one I would go with. But I don't own an 890 jump. But why should you buy the 890 jump? Let me get to that part. You should buy an 890 jump if you are super into the luxury touring. You should buy an 890 jump if you like the idea of putting tanks on the top of it and using them as turrets, because that is a thing you can do. I don't know how long you'll be able to do it for, but you can do it. You should buy the 890 jump if you are a pack rat but you like luxury, because you can fit a metric ton of SCU cargo on here, and you can fit a bunch of vehicles on it at the same time. And again, it does operate as a kind of command and control ship. However, a lot of the space is wasted within it. However, I do think I don't know if it'll be a tier 1 bed or a tier 2 bed on the 890 jump, but I think it's a tier 2 bed. But I think it has 2 tier 2 beds, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so it's got enough to be your command ship. It's got enough to just barely be your capital ship, where your base of operations is located. It's a nicer base of operations, obviously. I think it works best as either a pirate kind of base of operations, where you just kind of have this luxury experience, but for pirates. And then I think it works also best for people who actually are super into the touring and passenger transport and cargo type of things. So it depends. What are you into? And that's kind of what you have to decide when you're purchasing any ship. But the 890 jump is kind of the master of, you really need to know why you're buying an 890 jump. I mean, there are people who buy it just because it's cool, but if you have $890 to spend on things just because they're cool, then you don't need my reviews. The G12. Now, the G12, the G12A, and the G12R. I do think the G12R will end up being one of the fastest vehicles in the game, but I can't guarantee that. We just don't have enough information about the G12, and it's a little weird, honestly, because this seems fairly simple to make. But I think it's got something to do with either the shape of it, the design of it, or the fact that they're changing it. And I think it's more likely that they're changing it, because I think they're realizing that the other options are just better. All the other vehicles offer something that these just don't offer. So let me give you an example. The G12, right? It can carry, I believe, 2 SCU of cargo, right? Why would I pay $60 for this when I can get an Ursa for $50, which carries multiple people when it's not carrying the 2 SCU? This only carries 2 people when it's carrying the 2 SCU, or it doesn't carry any SCU and it still only carries 2 people. Whereas the Ursa, you can fit 3 or 4, no, I think you can fit 4 people on the back, 4 people on the back plus 2 people in the seats. Or when you're not carrying people, you can fit 2 SCU in it. So I just don't, there's no reason for me to get a G12 outside of the fact that the G12 will be faster. That's the only thing we know, is that the G12 will be faster than the Ursa. Now, it'll probably have slightly better visibility than the Ursa. Maybe it'll be better in a off-road, but that's it. I just don't see me spending extra money for that when I could have the more utilitarian Ursa. The G12A. Now, this, again, it only fits 2 people, and then it has the anti-air stuff on the back. But why would I get this instead of a Cyclone MT, which has both a gun and missiles that are anti-air? Yeah, it's $10 more, but it's significantly better, because now 3 people can ride in the ship or ride in the vehicle. Even if I don't want anybody to shoot that gun, I still can carry 3 people with me, which is much better. Then the G12R, which is the only variant I think that's actually worth its price, because I do think this will be one of the largest vehicles that actually goes as fast as some of the smaller vehicles. But again, it's just racing. It's not going to do much more than that. I do think actually this has an EMP though. And if I'm not mistaken, if it has that EMP, then this even much more so is the variant that I think people should get, because the 2 SCU, if I need to carry cargo in one of these ships, I should be getting an Ursa. So the base G12 doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because I should be getting an Ursa. I'm better off just getting the faster one that's probably going to be better off-roading that has an EMP. Unless it's the G12A that has the EMP. But either way, I think this is the variant to buy. Whether it had the EMP or not, I still think this is the variant to buy. So that's the thing. If the G12A is the one that has the EMP, then that makes it a little bit better than the MT, but I still would rather have a third person than a vehicle with an EMP, because vehicle EMPs are more of a nice to have rather than a necessary. I can't even see a whole lot of applications for that. I can see some, but I just don't see a lot. So that wouldn't really change whether I think a vehicle is worth it or not. The G12R to me, at the exact same price as the base model, seems to be the one to get. You don't get the cargo anymore, but the increased amount of speed in something like this, and maybe a better ability to do off-roading, I think might make this the better version of it altogether. I prefer, it's one of the few ships though where I do prefer the white or the dark black skin though. So it depends on what you like, but this is a dedicated racing vehicle, so I can see why they have that skin on it. But yeah, the G12R is the one to get if you're asking me. However, I hope that they redesign it to fit 3 people, because that's my biggest knock against it. This is supposed to be a step between the Cyclone and the Ursa, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it seemed like it always was going to be, rather than a direct competitor to the Ursa. And it fits a lot better when you put it and market it that way, because if this could seat 3 people consistently, I wouldn't have any issues saying it's worth the money. But because it can only fit 2 people, that drastically changes the value of this ship, because there's 2 Cyclones that can fit 3 people. And I just would rather have the Cyclone, because the Cyclone is gonna give me a little bit more utility. And yeah, it's hard to kind of justify this outside of the racing variant. Then there's the M50. Now, this is a love it or hate it ship. This is the hot rod of the Star Citizen universe. You can see the engine right out the top of this thing, and it is built for speed. And at $100, I'm pretty sure you're getting exactly what you pay for. I don't particularly like all of the looks of the M50, but it is very fast. It's got some decent maneuverability. I did a whole review on it, but that's pretty much the whole story about it. It's one person cockpit. It's a hot rod of a vehicle. It's to show off that nice engine you got. I hope that it in the future allows you to kind of change out that engine a little bit and maybe like edit it and change little colors of the wires and stuff to really give it that hot rod feel. But yeah, I think the M50 is for the racers, obviously, but it does have some nice guns on it. So, you know, it's not only for racing. And this is what I always tell CIG. Stop making ships just for racing. Give it a little gun. It doesn't even have to have guns. Give it a better radar. Give it some secondary purpose, and I will go to bat for it. But I'm sorry, Saber Peregrine. I can't go to bat for you. You just don't have extra utility. But the M50 does, so I would get an M50. If I was into racing. I'm not particularly into racing, but I do like the M50. Now the X series. So you have the X1, the X1 Force, and the X1 Velocity. If you've been watching my vehicles, you know which one I prefer. It's the X1 Force. I'm actually going to be picking up a CCU to one of these. I don't think I'll be applying that CCU anytime soon, because it's not really up to snuff where it is right now. But I do think this will end up being my particular bike of choice. If I need to carry 2 people, I think the Dragon, if you need to carry 2 people, the Dragonfly is the best option. And if you need to carry 3 people, the Cyclone MT is the best option. If you need to carry more than that, as far as vehicles specifically, the Ursa, the base Ursa or Ursa Fortuna is your best option. Now, one caveat is the Ursa Medevac. If you're okay with not carrying the cargo, but carrying the 3 people, that's actually the best 3-person. If you are okay with the person just being in the back of the jump seat. And it has that medical bed. So the Ursa Medevac is the kind of one I'd put just above the Cyclone MT. But yeah, if you don't know my 5 vehicles, it's the Cyclone MT, it's the X1 Force, it's the Ursa Medevac, it's the Nova tank, and the Grey Cat Rock. Those are my 5 vehicles that I think if you're going to buy a vehicle, it should be one of those 5. Otherwise, there's some more that I could probably justify, but I wouldn't include them in my 5, like the Dragonfly or the Pulse, because it's so cheap. So those are, you can justify those, but my 5 are my 5, and I would stick with those. The X1 Force, mainly because it is the only hover vehicle with a shield, and you can put a shotgun on the front of this thing and just wreak havoc. It can fit in places it's not supposed to fit, and it can shoot things and just absolutely blow them away because it's got a ship weapon on it that is a shotgun. It's a ship shotgun, and you could put it on the front of a hover bike and just blast things, everything in front of you, and it is really fun when you actually do that. But the X1 is kind of broken right now. I'm sure they'll fix it for 4.0, but it is a little broken right now, and that's the only reason I hesitate on people buying it. But a CCU to it will save you a lot of pain and grief, and you can get, I think, one for $5 from the Ursa. Now, the velocity is faster. It's the fastest of the 3, but as you can see, it doesn't have any weapons. It's purely for speed. Now, if you like the look of the X1, because sometimes when you're buying a bike, it is more about the look because they're similarly priced. If you like the look of the X1 and you want to go fast, I can see people getting this one. This one has a gun, so if you like the look of the X1 and you want to go faster than the X1 Force, because the X1 Force is the slowest of the 3, I could see people getting the X1. And I do think the maneuverability on the X1, the base X1, is a little better than both of these. Because this is faster in a straight line, but I think the maneuverability on the base X1 is the reason you get that one. Now, this one's $10 more, and this one's $5 more, so I think you're absolutely getting what you pay for with the Force. I think all of these are pretty appropriately priced because they're supposed to be like the luxury bikes. I do wish they were a little bit more closed, but one thing that I will say is that I hope CIG takes this into consideration. You can do an air shield. You can still cover this without having it technically being covered by doing an air shield where you don't have to actually enclose it. So I hope CIG actually does that. That would be very cool. I don't think they actually will, but I'm hoping that somewhere down the line they decide to do that. But yeah, I like the X1 bikes. I think the X1 Force is the one to get. And yeah, that is Origin. Finally a decent Warbond, but they're still behind on decent Warbonds. I do think these 890 jump paints are worth it. I will be picking up that 3-pack. And let's take a look at these complete packs. Now, this is where I might say you might, if you want an 890 jump, this is probably the best place to get it, because if you look down here, look at what you get. Lifetime insurance. Here's what you have to ask yourself, right? Now, the 890 jump and the 600i are worth their money. They're obviously worth their money, but if you take the price of the 890 jump, let's just say $900 for the sake of math, and the 600i, the exploration module, you're looking at $1,500, right? That's $1,500 for the 2 most valuable ships. But then you're really going to have to fight to justify the rest of this. The 85X, you're going to have 2 of them, because you're going to have the one that comes with the 890 jump and then this one. The 100i, I've kind of told you, I think the 300 series is better, but the 100 series fits in more places. The 400i, I do think you can get a better ship, so you're probably just going to end up upgrading that one anyway. especially because you have both models of the 600i. Obviously, the touring module is good, but if you're not into touring, you really don't need that. The G12, like I've said, I think the R is really the only one worth its salt, so you probably should end up upgrading the G12 and the G12A to something else, which means, again, you're still putting more money into the game. The M50, I do think it's a hot rod. It's a fast vehicle, but I can't find a lot of uses for it. And then I think, of course, the X1s are kind of worth it. So you're really gonna only be able to justify about $1,800 to $1,900 worth of the value for this. And that's the biggest thing. You're paying more than what I think the pack is worth. But what I think the biggest thing you have to ask yourself is, how much is LTI worth it to you? Because I do think getting LTI on the 890 jump is worth a lot at this stage in the game. Is it worth $700? I don't think so. You have to be able to upgrade a lot of these other ships to other things. Generally, the good advice is you shouldn't buy packs in general. But this is for people who are past the stage of trying to just make money on their ships, and they are trying to really fill out certain spaces with LTI. This advice that I'm giving right now is for the person who's really just trying to get the ships that they want with LTI on them. And this, I think, if you're obviously the best way to get LTI is if you already were in the past and you bought one for cheaper, right? But the current best way to get LTI, I think, is this Origin complete pack. Now, I do think if you buy one in the future, it'll get a better value, but it'll also be more expensive. So I think your best bet, save up, because I wouldn't get this one. I would get I wouldn't spend the cash on it, but I would put the credits into it, because if you look here, it also comes with lifetime insurance. So I would get this version of it. It's $3,000. That is an absolutely insane amount of money to put into a video game or spend on ships. So I'm not advocating it, saying, yeah, go out and buy a $3,000 pack. This is for people who are willing to melt a bunch of stuff and kind of start over on a few things to get that 890 jump with the LTI. I personally don't like the 890 jump enough to spend $3,000 worth of credits on it, but I can see if there's people who are really huge fans of the 890 jump and really big fans of Origin that would get this complete pack, and it would be totally worth it for them. So I can see a realm where people would get this pack, but I would not advocate for it. All right, so I don't think there was any other crazy skins or anything for anything. So yeah, that's Origin. Let's end it like we always do and look at our event schedule. We're on Origin Day. Remember, all these ship sales last 2 days. Then there's Anvil Aerospace tomorrow, which is our final day, day 9. And that's the one where I think we might get to see what this Anvil, what is it called? Anvil, it's not the Guardian, it's the Anvil Paladin, I believe. We might see it tomorrow. I'm not hopeful of that, because it does look like they're saving it for some other thing. But I would love for them to end IAE by announcing that ship and it being a subcapital Anvil ship. I would love to see that, or even a capital. That would be absolutely incredible. People have been waiting for an Anvil capital for a very long time. So fingers crossed for that. Then we have Best in Show, where people will, if I'm not mistaken, people will finally get their Best in Show skins. And then the grand finale, which is everything's available to purchase. And December 2nd, to the 4th, everything's available to purchase. You can get everything in the everything that's been available, and hopefully they'll best in show, and during the grand finale they'll have some really cool Warbonds for people that are still trying to finish out those CCU chains. So yeah, we're almost done, folks. We got what, 4 more days. When it gets to farewell from IAE, technically I think you could still buy ships all the way up to either 8 a.m. or 11 a.m. But I think the sale either ends at 8 a.m. or 11 a.m. I'm not particularly sure, so let's assume 8 a.m. So get everything finalized by 8 a.m. on December 5th, and then you don't have to worry about anything. All right, that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one. Shout out to the members. Peace.